All right, you guys, we're back with another one. This is episode 27, Salesboro Pod. This time around, we got Mr. Ben Byrne. Ben, thank you for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me, man. It's great to be here.
You come well recommended from the previous guest, Jeff Lunding, so I'm happy to jump into it. And I've also seen your stuff around, and I know you've done some notable things in this space, so I'm definitely happy to have you and dive into things a bit.
I was thinking of getting on your podcast for a while and was like, I should hit up Dylan. And then I saw Jeff was on there. I was like, Jeff, introduce me to Dylan. And he did it like right away. He's like, dude, you guys should meet. So I was like, this is sick.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I mean, sure, I know a lot of salespeople in this space, but I wish more people would make introductions like that so that I could have like cool, a lot of cool people that I don't know in my immediate network. So I'm glad that Jeff made the connection. Yeah. Jeff's a solid guy.
Yeah, he's good at wakeboarding too. We were down in Colombia at the end of June, like June, July, for a little mastermind. And it's a place called Guatape. I'm probably butchering that. I'm like, I know like 3 Spanish words, but beautiful. Like we were wakeboarding and hiking, and it was sick.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw a video of him wakeboarding. It's funny.
Yeah.
Well, so for those or I guess for the viewers that maybe they do not know who you are, what are you up to right now?
Yeah, I'm like a sales manager basically. I still take a few closing calls every now and then. I work for JK Molina for his company. So it was Tweets and Clients. Now it's like Likes and Cash, basically helping guys monetize their audiences, selling high ticket stuff. And on the side, I do coaching. My whole thing is like turning people into like sales superstars. So upping their skills, their personal habits, their business habits, and presenting themselves with more status, I would say.
Cool. Yeah, that's good. And how long have you been in this like quote unquote high ticket sales space now?
It's been a minute. It's been like a hot minute, dude. So I got started in like door-to-door sales right out of out of college. So that was like 10 years ago now. I did that for a little while. I started reading books. I got like a shit ton of books behind me. I read this book called The Education of Millionaires that was talking about like direct response marketing. So like Gary Halbert, Dan Kennedy, all these like legends now. And I was like, oh, I'm going to be like the best freelance copywriter in the world. That was my goal for like 3 years. And then that led me to the agency world at around 2016, 17. And we started an agency, started selling higher ticket stuff. I remember one day we joined this mastermind and we were selling our service for like $5K plus rev share. And we joined this mastermind for $24K. And at the time that was like a lot of money. I was like, God damn, $24K. Because I come from a small town in Canada. I'm from Halifax, very small town. There's not a lot of entrepreneurs here. I didn't really know anybody from an entrepreneurial space. Like my buddy Ryan was kind of one of the first dudes on Money Twitter that was like one of the original gurus. But where was I? So we just joined this program. It's $24K. And one day I went from selling our offer to $5K. And I was like, what if I just not double the price, but I increased it to $7,500. And I was like, yeah, it's $7,500. It's same price, same script, same everything. And the person's like, okay. I was like, wait a second. I could have been selling it for $7,500 this whole time. And then I was like, well, what if I just increase it to $15K? And like the next call, the guy was like, yeah, okay, sure, let's do it. I was like, what the fuck? That was an interesting time. That was exciting. I was like, holy shit. We just made like 3 times as much money from the same thing. Like, it was a trip.
So that got you kind of hooked on the whole sales part of it.
Yeah, dude. I basically was in engineering in college, like mechanical engineering, and I hated it. I was like, I'm way too dumb for this. I was reading all these business books, and I think this is right when Ty Lopez was like here in my garage, and I was like, I want to do that. So he was like, you gotta like, it's like, I'm like, yeah, I gotta start a business. Like, fuck this like engineering stuff. And so I was like reading all these books, and every book was like, you got to learn sales if you want to do business. Like, you got to learn sales. You got to learn sales. And I was like, no, like I went into sales so I don't have to, or engineering, so I don't have to learn sales, because I was like a hardcore introvert. I was like, I just like the idea of becoming a freelance copywriter who could just like write stuff and not talk to people, and they just send you money or something. I was like, this is the best thing ever, because door to door was like a living hell. But yeah, like I just made a decision one day. I was like, I suck at sales, but I'm just going to do the thing that gives me the most amount of reps. So I learn it really fast, and then I'll be like a business guy. I'll get into business and start selling stuff and make money. That was like my plan. I didn't know anything about high ticket. I didn't know anything about anything.
Okay. That was kind of similar to me too. Like I went to school for watered down engineering. You could call it construction science and management.
Okay.
And I was more of like the introverted type, like more like the mathematical kind of guy, you know?
Yeah.
And I never thought I'd
like
be a
super
salesperson.
analytical. Yeah.
Yeah. And I started out in copywriting as well. Similar to, I think,
nice.
Jeff. Like, I think Jeff
Yeah.
said the same
I think
thing.
everyone maybe does, or maybe not.
But
so did you do copywriting before sales or after?
Yeah. I started in copywriting. There's this dude on Money Twitter, let's call it, in like 2017, 2018, Nate Schmidt, the drop shipping dude. And he was like, when I did.
Nate Schmidt. Money, yeah.
Yeah. He's like, when I didn't have money to drop ship, I did this to get money, and it was copywriting. And then I went down that rabbit hole.
Right.
And I did okay, but like, I didn't really like writing. Like, I don't know. Did you enjoy writing?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I did. I was like, I had a stupid goal. I was like, I'm going to become the best freelance copywriter, which is stupid because in my mind, I'm like, when you're the best, you'll get paid the most. But then it took me a few years to realize it's like, oh, writing the copy and selling yourself, and it's like the business is like different. And so I spent so much time learning everything, like buying the copywriting courses and reading the books and practicing. And I was like super heavy on that side because I thought that's what it was. But it was like, oh, like I have to learn how to sell this better, which was like a revelation for me way back then.
Yeah. So you started copywriting, and then like when did it click? It's like, oh, you know what, man, I should start sales. Was it like through reading books and stuff, or how'd that happen?
So I was doing door to door. I read a book that talked about copywriting. So I was in sales first. I was looking for a way to make door to door easier. And then there's like, hey, there's this thing. So I bought this book. It was called The Education of Millionaires. The most clickbait title that you could ever have. I was like, this sounds great. I read it, and it was like direct response copywriting. It's like you can send out a message, people read it, and they come to you to buy stuff. And I was like, I don't have to knock on doors. And like people that get good at this, there's like Frank Kern and all these guys that are like legends now. It's like these guys get paid like $200,000 for a cop. Like some of them make like this absurd amount of money. And I was like, this is crazy. Like this is like the craziest. It was like I just found like this like a stick of like a huge plate of gold or something like that. I was like, this is like the craziest thing ever. Yeah. So I was like, I can make like I'm gonna write copy for like the shit that I'm selling. Like I'm for solar panels and shit. I just had all these crazy ideas after that. But I kind of went sales, copywriting for a while, and then back into sales, kind of both, you know. And so I didn't really finish the story. So how I got to JK's team, because I was running my own company. We did the agency thing, just like every other agency owner. We decided to do a coaching program. We did that for like 3 years, up until COVID. Sometime in COVID, I think around the end of 2020, my business partner ended up fucking off to Ukraine. And I was like, well, I don't want to run this coaching company by myself. And so I was just like living off savings from, I would say like January of 2021 until August. And I was like getting really low on money, and I just had no, you know, when you're kind of burnt down, you have no motivation to really like I don't want to like go out there and hunt for clients right now. It's like, I can't be bothered. But then you have this, like, this voice is like, well, I'm running out of money. Like, I got to do something. Like, what am I going to do for money? And I was like, to go back to the mastermind that I joined, it was like the 24K thing. I met a guy in there named Brian Ostermiller. And I was having these like sleepless nights. I was living with my ex-girlfriend at the time. I was like, couldn't sleep. I was like, what am I going to do for money? Is like every month they're just like the bank account's getting smaller and smaller. And I was like, fuck. I was like praying one night. I was like, I need to find something where like I could still use my strengths and stuff, and I can still work from home. I don't have to go and do some stupid job. And then like 2 days later, Brian hit me up and he goes, hey, dude, I was meditating and then you just like popped into my mind. He's like, what are you up to? I was like, I don't know, nothing. He's like, I'm working with this guy. I'm working with Cole. I kind of knew Cole because he was so it was Traffic and Funnels Elite program. Cole was a closer before he went to start closers.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I'm working with Cole and we're doing some cool stuff. And he's like, do you want to come sell for us? And I was like, let me think about it. I was like, hell yeah, this sounds perfect. So, yeah, I was on that team for like 11 months. And then I basically got fired, but that's like a different story. Yeah. I think, yeah. So anyway, Cole hit me up. He's like, hey, do you want to work with like Alex Becker? I was like, yeah. He's like, to grow his appointment setting team. So I did that for like a month, which was interesting.
Nice.
Worked with Eli Wilde, who's another guy who sold like $100 million. He was Tony Robbins' number one closer, sales trainer guy. He's an awesome dude. I worked for him for a few months. Still talk to him like a lot. Yeah. And then just got on JK's radar. Like my old business partner who fucked off to Ukraine, Ryan, he partnered up with JK. And I just came to start. I was like, hey, can you coach our clients on sales? I was like, sure. Like, hey, can you help us build a setting team? I was like, sure. Can you close? He's like, oh, Jeff left, or the old closer. He's like, can you close for us? I was like, sure, I'll just do everything. Fuck it. I was like working for 3 companies and I was still not as busy as I was on Cole's team, which is crazy. Dude. But anyway, that takes us to now.
Yeah. I mean, you seems like you had like just some really good, perhaps like timing with all of this stuff. Like you ended up on some of probably the most desirable teams you could be on, just like back to back to back. I guess to like take it one step at a time. When you were working with Cole, were you were working with Closers.io, right? That portion of this company. Was it like selling to the sales coaching, or was it like on the business side?
It was both at first, and then after like 5 months, it was just the sales coaching. So he has RCA, which is Remote Closing Academy, which is like the biz op, and then STA, which is Sales Team Accelerator. So at first, it was both. And by the way, I wasn't closing; I was actually setting. Brian called me up and he goes, "You should come close for us." And we do our first mock call. And granted, it had been probably 10 months since my last sales call. Like. I was pretty good 10 months ago. I was like, you get rusty as fuck after like a week of not selling, let alone 10 months. So he's like, dude, that was pretty bad. Like, why don't you start as a setter for 3 months, 2 or 3 months, and then we can move you into closing. I was like, okay. And then it just never happened, which is one of the reasons why I was like, well, like, I don't want to be a setter for the rest of my life. And I was starting to, I met a girl who lived like 4 hours away. So I was like, I miss my freedom. And it's like, there's a whole storm of why I ended up getting fired from there. But I just wasn't that happy with the offer anymore. But anyway, so I was on this team. I was setting for both of them. I would say the only reason I even got on that team was because of just being in the right room, which was joining that mastermind, right? Like if I just hit them up and was like, hey, like you guys need a salesperson? They're like, no, like fuck you. But here's the thing, people looking for jobs. Like I'm sure a lot of your guys are looking for roles. Like how do you get on these big teams? Well, it's kind of like it's tough because a lot of these guys are looking for dudes with track records first and foremost in the high ticket space. Because if you're running ads, you're spending money to fill up their calendar, and you're like, hey, I'll close for you. It's like their biggest expense is missed sales, right? And so that's why if you have a track record, well, like once I got off of Cole's team, I was like, I worked for Cole for like what was it, 11 months. I've done this much revenue. I've done this. I've done that. I've done this. I have a track record now. And so I was I was just getting offers. I wasn't looking for offers. Like I was getting probably 5, 6, 7 offers a week for like a few months. I didn't even tell people that I wasn't even on the team. For a while,
sort
I
that
wouldn't even
out.
tell people I worked for. I was actually embarrassed of working for Cole because I had like an identity of being an entrepreneur. So I didn't want to tell people that I work for Cole, especially as a setter. I was like super embarrassed about it.
Yeah. Well, dude, I mean, it's if you're gonna do it, like that's probably one of the better teams to get on your resume, right? I heard he runs it like a very
Yeah.
tight ship. It's almost like military
Oh
esque.
yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, dude. It's I. It's crazy how many people join that team and either got fired or just left within the first like week. Like for
Yeah.
closers and setters, like it was just a super high intense environment.
Yeah.
I was like, I never worked this hard on my own business. Like, what the fuck? Like, I would be making like millions of dollars a month if I would have worked this hard. Because like we were running ads and stuff, but I wasn't like outbound dialing them. I was just like waiting for them to show up on my calendar. I was like, fuck, like I would have made so much more money if I would have just been like calling these leads. Like,
Yeah.
it's
What are
painful thinking about it.
what are some of the obviously, dude? I mean, he's been able to build that company up very quickly. But like, what are some of the things that you saw, and perhaps from the setter or closer perspective, that people on his team did differently than like other teams that you've seen?
It's the culture, man. It's literally the culture. So, like the people that are really good and like really like it attracts the best people.
Yeah.
And the people that like can't handle that culture is like super high accountability and performance. Like we're on a sales team meeting, for example, we all have projections. So like, what are you going to do this week? Like you set them at the beginning of the month. So it's like, okay, this week I'm going to close 5 sales. I'm at 3, and let's say it's a Thursday, like it is today. Dude, you got 2 left this week. Are you going to hit it? Like, yeah, probably. Wrong answer. So it's like the whole thing is like say do ratio. So it's like if you say you're going to do it, you have to do it. And
Yeah.
so there's that. It's like when you're on a sales team with like 30 people or whatever, like at one point it was like 10 setters and like 12 closers or something like that, and like the sales manager, and like it's intense. Like you're going around like, oh, here's my projections, and yeah, it was just like a really intense environment. So there's that. But in terms of like what they did different, I mean, they're like Cole's like a genius at marketing, for one. Like really good. Like what's the word? I don't know. He does a lot of smart stuff, but I would
Yeah.
say the
Yeah. No.
culture is probably the biggest one.
Yeah. That's what I've heard. I've worked on teams that brought them and their coaches in, and then I've worked with people who came from his team. I mean, I've never had
Mm,
any direct relation other than getting into his recruitment pipeline as a sales rep, like way back in the day. Um,
right.
but yeah, man. And then you go from that to like working with Alex Becker, which I'm sure tons of people would be like thrilled to have
Complete
that opportunity.
180. Yeah. Dude, it
I,
was like the opposite of Cole's team. And it freaked me out. I hated it. Because
yeah,
there's like
I
no
could
sales
imagine.
meetings. There's no like accountability, no anything. It was just very weird. And like you can't call Alex. It's like nobody jumps on and talks. Like this is fucking weird. Like
Yeah.
because on Cole's team,
I,
it's like we're meeting every single day at this time. You can't be late. And it's like there's all this stuff that you just like you get into a routine and structure and stuff, and it's like this all these things like create the most performance like for
yeah.
salespeople.
Was that for Hyros or something else?
It was Hyros, yeah.
Cool. I was briefly on a or working with some people, and they hired somebody from that team. I can't recall his name right now. But the dude was like pretty intense. Um,
Yeah.
but what I was going to ask is like, how did you manage to land that? Like, was it another case of a referral?
Alex Becker.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cole hit me up when I got fired. I don't think Cole's ever hit someone up who got fired off the team. A lot of people will like leave Cole's team and be super mad, and they'll leave like Trustpilot reviews like this is the worst team ever. And when I got fired, I was like, hey guys, I really appreciate this. This is like really helpful. No hard feelings on my end. I was just like not a dick about it. I was just like, I'm like
Yeah.
super appreciative of the opportunity. And then Cole hit me up directly. He's like, hey dude, like sorry to hear you go, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, would you want to work with Alex? I was like, Alex who? He's like, Alex Becker. I was like, oh, fuck yeah, of course. And then Cole just directly introduced us.
Damn.
Same with Eli.
Through Cole or through Alex?
Both through Cole, yeah.
Damn, dude. Yeah, that's, I mean, similar to how the role that I'm on right now, there was no interview. It was just kind of like, oh, like, are you interested? Cool. Like
Yeah.
when you,
But how did he know about you though? Did he already know about you, or did he just like you?
I had referred like people onto their sales team, and they liked those people, and it was a good reflection of me. So
interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's a network, man. Like it truly is.
It is
everything
for sure. It is
because like you or I could.
That's one of the things that I talk about because I do like creating the whole personal brand thing on Twitter, but mostly Instagram now. And I'm like, every single salesperson should be like creating some type of personal brand, putting out content, like growing their network, like actively, even if you're never planning on selling something like your own offer.
Yeah.
Although I think they still should at some point, but because it's so important. Because if you lose your job or whatever, the company goes under, they fire you. It's like boom, snap your fingers, and you got like 10 more opportunities.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's like for any of these roles with Cole, Alex Becker, or Eli Wilde, did they ask you for like a traditional resume?
No. Right. Or JK didn't either. We're like, how racist are you? No, just kidding.
No, I never been asked for a traditional resume, and that's why
I don't think that's a thing in sales, man. I don't think that's a thing in sales in general.
I mean, in like other types of sales, I think it is. Like I know for the sales job I had to throw a resume out there.
Yeah, but interesting.
The social
in the high ticket space,
everything. No,
it is, dude. Your social media is your resume. In all honesty,
yeah. Do you know?
Like I have a friend who's in B2B. Like he runs a whole division, and he would probably need a resume. But he's selling like $3 million, $5 million contracts, like big deals.
Yeah. Do you know Larry Antiporta?
No.
Okay. I think some of the other guys that you've mentioned know him, so I was just curious if you did. But I had him on recently, solid dude, and he's been in this space for a little bit, and he was basically saying like, dude, I've seen it evolve from like you could come in with no sales experience and be a closer for a good company to now being what it is, where it's like, oh, you need the track record, you need the referral, you need the social media. Like it's a lot. The bar's a lot higher now. So
yeah, I guess that's like a byproduct of everyone like copying Cole. Cole himself, his company, this one thing is like training all these people to get into sales. And I'm sure a lot of them are like D players, you know, like just not that good. And then like companies probably got burnt enough where they're like, fuck, we need to like filter these people better because a lot of these guys are just shitheads. Or it's like some kid who's like, I can do sales, like hire me. And you're like, okay. And then they're just fucking, they shit the bed and like, maybe we should like interview them and stuff.
Yeah. What was the process of working with Alex Becker besides, I understand you weren't on daily meetings with him or anything, but like, what were some of the takeaways from that interaction that you had?
I mean, Alex, like we only communicated over Slack, like Messenger. So, he's. I would say like, from my impression of him is like, what you see is what you get. Like if you watch enough of his content, you're like, yeah, he's basically the same person. Like he's he's an interesting guy. I like Alex. You know, he's like it kind of ended weird with us, and he wanted me to get. I don't know, there was some weird stuff on that team, so I just kind of left. But he's a cool guy, and he's like the epitome of like discipline, which is like I mean, just look at him. He's in fucking retarded shape. He's worth 9 figures. You know, he's doing all this crazy stuff. It's a cool dude.
Yeah. Damn. So after that, you went on to work with Eli Wilde. Dude, Eli Wilde, like, I guess I don't know how one of my posts or something must have come across his explore page or something, but I assume one of his setters like reached out to me literally like today or yesterday, like asking if I want to come to a free event. But I mean, that dude alone is like just another crazy, opportunity to be able to work for him. Uh, what was
Yeah.
that experience like?
Eli's dude. He's like, we had like a one-on-one call this one time, and he started telling me, like, it's funny because at certain points in my career, I was like, there's nothing more I can learn about sales. I'm like, I know it. I've heard it all by now. I thought that before I worked on Cole's team, and then when I worked on Cole's team, I was like, holy shit! Like, I thought I was good, but I suck. It was kind of like that. And then I worked with Eli, and I was like, oh yeah, I know something about sales now. And then Eli was like telling me all this crazy stuff, like what they do when he's doing speeches, and it's like all these like hypnotic things that like make people like drop their guard. And it's like, then I just say this and this, and they're thinking about this and then that and then this and that, and it's like next thing you know, you're like, you got to buy, and then they're all buying. He's like, Eli's he did a live event or like a webinar. There was like 100 people on it. I think he sold like 81 of them. He made like
Damn.
like a bunch, and he did like one of the pitches on Tony Robbins, I think, Business Mastery, and he made like, I think they either made either $8 or $12 million, and like from that one pitch.
Damn. And now he teaches like it's sales coaching for like sales reps or businesses, or what is it exactly?
Yeah, sales coaching. I think he's doing speaker coaching too. Because like he's a really good speaker. I remember I first met Eli in the mastermind and the elite program, and I didn't know who he was. He's like, oh, like Mr. Eli is coming to speak, and he walks in, and there's like a room full of people. Some of them are doing 8 figures, a lot of them are doing 7. We were like doing chump change, basically like 50K per month. Like, I don't even think I should be in here, kind of thing. But Eli comes in and he goes, hey, like, all of you guys put together, this is the very first thing he says. He's like, all of you guys put together, like, I've sold more than all of you put together. I was like, what the fuck? Like, who's this guy? It was cool. I was like, all right, I'm listening. And then,
Damn, dude.
Yeah, that was like 2019 maybe.
That's crazy. So he sold, I mean, his like whole edge is he sold like 100 million for Tony Robbins, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely part of it. Like I bought his, he has like it was called NLP for sales. I think he had to change the title of it because if you have NLP in the name, you have to like pay Robert Grinder's family or something like that. So he changed it to transformative selling system. But there's so much stuff that was in just that little course, these mini frames and stuff and ways to like, it's crazy. Like it's like a different level of skill set.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
And like he taught Cole. Cole.
And so
most of Cole's stuff.
So it wasn't. I'm gonna assume it wasn't Cole who introduced you to JK, but it was Ryan.
That was Ryan,
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, my buddy, and we met like when I moved to Ontario to do the door to door. So we weren't even in business stuff. We were just buddies at that time.
I remember seeing his stuff.
Like, I need a wingman to meet girls around Barrie. So we ended up hanging out, like going to chase chicks.
That's cool. I saw his stuff back in the early days of my Twitter consumption, I guess you can call it. And he was always like the agency guy.
Yeah, exactly. And then we went traveling through Europe, and he was like selling some Facebook ads course, and I was like, I don't know, I can't remember what I was doing. I used to get burnt out a lot, so I was doing freelance copywriting. I was like, I think I like randomly took like a summer off to go work in construction in the middle of nowhere, and I was just hating my life. But I stacked up like 16 grand or something like that. And Brian hit me up. He goes, hey, do you want to go to Europe for 2 months? I was like, oh, fuck yeah. I was in the middle of nowhere. I was like, fuck it, I'll go. Like, I don't care about the money. I was get me out of here, basically. And then he was like, why don't you like sell a course or something? Like, you knew a lot of copywriting stuff. And I was like, yeah, I could probably talk about like email copywriting. And Ryan's like, okay, cool. And I think we did like, I remember doing a Twitter live on it back when that was a thing. And no spaces. And, like we were drunk, like definitely pretty drunk, talking about like email stuff. And then the next day, it's like a Thursday, and like the next day is like a Friday. Ryan goes, hey, I got good news and not so good news. I'm like, what's up? He's like, okay, what's the good news? I was like, we just sold $10,000 worth of this new course. I'm like, what new course? It's like, oh, on email copywriting. I just wrote an email, sent it out to my list, and made like 10 grand. I was like, what? Really? He's like, yeah. I'm like, what's the bad news or the other news? It's like, it launches on Monday. I'm like, fuck. And I like went. I was like in this. We're in Croatia, and I was like in the shitty little closet, like recording, like the laundry closet, all weekend, just like sweating and dying and like desperately trying to finish this entire course before Monday. I was like, what the fuck, Ryan? But it was cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a common thing. Like, just like marketing and selling before the thing is like perfectly ironed out. I mean, I think that's how the most productive, like the fastest movers do things, right?
Yeah. That's why you got to be building your list, building your audience
Yeah.
before you get dig your well before you need it, right?
Yeah. Have you, so like, I mean, from that, man, usually when I have people on who are in this high ticket sales space, they like started on a shitty sales gig and like it was some agency and they weren't doing any money or anything like that. But you just started like, boom, Cole Gordon,
Yeah,
knowledge
yeah.
structure. You had a lot of,
I started with Cole, which is fucked. I realized that too. I'm like, man, like you kind of like it's like if you just started like the NBA and everyone else is like in
yeah.
like Pee Wee League or whatever.
Yeah, dude.
So yeah, it's not exactly normal. But a lot of people on that team either they got on the team because they went through the program, like they were sold into it. Like quite a few people on the team did that, or
Yeah.
they had their own business and like they somehow knew like Brian or Cole and then just got hired on, and that was a
Yeah.
thing. I think like a few of the people
Huh.
that I know.
So what's it like running things now with the new like St. Cash, like that group, what you guys are up to? Um, you're like you said sales manager technically?
Yeah, I guess technically now like I'm like more of like a setter lead. We have like 3 different setters.
Cool.
No, 4. We have one phone guy and we have 3 DM setters in the different platforms. So kind of training those guys, training this our phone guy, and then coaching the clients on sales and stuff. And
Yeah.
um, then I mostly spend the rest of my time just doing my own shit, just like promoting my own coaching and making content, just kind of
Yeah.
growing the personal brand a bit. I haven't been like
Yeah.
super aggressive in like selling it, but I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
Yeah, man. I was gonna say earlier when you said something about getting the first role or the network. I was gonna throw in there like I joined one of JK's programs early 2022 to like get like take Twitter seriously, and that's
Right.
where I got my first high ticket sales job. It was part time, and it was through
Oh,
somebody in the group. So like it's all full circle, I guess.
yeah, man. That's like the best way to do it is just getting into like I even thought that way when I was like a copywriter. I was like, if I want better clients, I should probably pay to get into better rooms
Yeah,
where people are like business owners. Like I know they pay to get in there, so they have money, and I can network with them. And the funny enough though, like I've always been I don't know, like I was like big into like pickup for a few years, like maybe 2 years in college, just like cold
yeah,
approaching like crazy and just being a degenerate like that. And so I took a lot of those skills to like grow it, like just to grow my own business. And so like I worked with like I worked with like Craig Clemens, for example. He is like a 9-figure dude. And I just hit him up one day. I was like, hey, like I cold DM'd him, and I'm not sure if you know who Craig is, but he's like a super low. I guess he's pretty low key now, but the guy's crazy. He launches like 8-figure brands like overnight in like the health and space. But
Yeah.
I was like, dude, I read about you in the Education of Millionaires. And he's like, I don't even know if this is you. It might be a VA, but I want to say like, you're the reason I got into freelancing, and I'm like, I'm doing it now. And it's awesome. I'm like, thanks, man. And he hits me back up. He's like, no, it's me. And yeah, I got like I think my biggest at the time freelance copywriting client out of him from like a referral, and he was like looking over my copy, and I was like, this is crazy. He's like, would you move to California? I'm like, hell yeah, but I'm like, I'm a Canadian. He goes, oh, never mind. God damn.
That's funny. Yeah, dude. I
Yeah.
mean, one of my buddies, he runs like a sales management business, kind of, and he's like really big on going to all these events and meeting people, and he does good work too. And so like the compounding of just like his name getting around it's like
Yeah.
so insane. And there's a lot of people out
Nice.
here who think like, oh, it's so hard to get a job, it's so hard to find a client, whatever. Meanwhile, you got guys
Yeah.
out here who are just doing good work and meeting people, and like they're running laps around everyone else.
Dude, totally. It's like the more hands you shake, the more money you make, man. It's like sales 101.
Yeah. Are
What sales
you
management? What like? What is he doing? Like managing teams
like, I
or
think it's like
placing setters or closers?
recruiting and
Ah,
coaching it, and I think
okay.
there's a management component. Honestly, like I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? I had an offer to work with this guy who he had a biz op that helps people start recruiting companies. I can't remember what his name is now off the top of my head, but I could kind of tell that he was like struggling. He's like, we were doing 200K per month, now we're doing like 50. And like reading between the lines, like things weren't great for this guy. And I didn't really want to do biz op, and then I ended up working with Alex Becker. And anyway, I knew like, you want to talk about how fast sales can like change a company. I knew this girl. She sold 48 units. She broke the record for on RCA. Her name's Jen. And then she got fired because I don't really know what happened, but she got fired like the next month. She broke the record, 48 units, 8,800 sales. She crushed it. Like she was a beast. And
Yeah.
I knew that she wasn't doing anything. I hit her up and I was like, hey, this guy, I'm not sure if you're looking for an offer or whatever, but this dude here is like looking for a closer, and I connected them. And then fucking the guy, like he went from like you could tell he was like basically struggling. He was like, oh, it's like depressed. I seen his like story the next month. He's like flying on private jets, and I was like, what the fuck? Like she must have just came and like just fucking crushed it for that dude.
Damn. Yeah. How I mean, you've seen the inside of a lot of these successful funnels, and you've been a sales rep now for a while. Like, what when you go into like onto a new team, and whether you're just a sales rep or you're tasked with like helping them build out things, like does a lot of your
Yeah.
emphasis first go to like the structure and the systems in place before it's like, oh, how do we maximize the sales call, or like where does your focus go nowadays?
Yeah, that's a good question. So if I was going in and I was like a consultant, just like what would be the first thing I'd fix kind of thing? Or
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, number one is like, let's maximize the opportunities that we're getting now. Like listening to their calls, saying, what can we fix right now? It's just like low hanging fruit. You know, how are we following up with people? What is the sales process before and after the call? Like, how are we getting people on, reminding them? What's the marketing like? I probably look at all that stuff. How many leads are they getting? And then I look at their funnel, and like, this is one thing I was even doing today, just like looking through JK stuff. I was like, we gotta fucking redo this whole funnel. Like, this funnel is like could be way better, fucking way better. It's already decent, but yeah. So I look at first thing I do if I was like a consultant dude is listen to sales calls on like 2x speed. I listen to the first 10 minutes and the last 10 minutes of like a whole bunch of sales calls, because the first 10 minutes will give you a good idea of how good the prospect was, and the last 10 minutes will give you a good idea of how good the closer was. Sometimes you talk you listen to them and like, oh, I could tell that was a good prospect. They sounded smart. They're doing stuff. They didn't sound like a Walmart person or whatever. But then like, oh, the closer just let this person off way too easy. It's like, oh, you want to think about it. Like, what was I supposed to say? Like, come on, bro. Like, we have to like fix that, or else, we can be pumping leads, but this guy just can't close anything. Or sometimes it's the opposite. It's like, okay, like this closer was like really went for it. And there's like went like basically pushing as hard as he could without like, doing whatever. But the leads just suck. And so that's like a quick, like the first thing I would look at.
Yeah. I never heard of listening to the first and last 10 minutes of the call. Did you get that from somewhere, or did you just make that up?
Yeah, no. Brian told me that. Brian was he was like, so Brian basically started RCA with Cole. Cole was doing his B2B thing, and he partnered with Brian. Brian built RCA from the ground up. So he was like the first closer, the first setter, the first CSM. He was he did everything. He did the marketing, and then he grew that to over $1 million a month. Built a team. So he specifically told me to do that. Brian is one of the he's a low key dude too. Brian's a fucking genius at sales. It's like we listen to a sales call. Sometimes usually they would split up the closers and the setters. Like, so the closers would go and listen to a closing call. Setters would go with the setter lead and listen to the setting call. But sometimes he wouldn't. And like, we would be listening to a call and Brian would be like, within like 2 minutes, he's like, oh, it's this type of person. He's going to say this. He's probably sleeping right now, or like laying down in bed. He's like, just like a whole laundry list of stuff about this guy. And then the call turns out exactly like it's like exactly like what he predicted within the first like minute of the call. And you're like, bro, like, how can you do it? And you listen to his calls. I would listen to all of his calls and they're all different. There's like, sometimes you follow the call flow, but sometimes you just be like shooting the shit with the person. And it's like, boom, the guy would just pay. And you're like what's going on here? He was just, I think he said he was like Eli Wilde trained him, but he was really fucking good at like just sales in general and reading people, and just like a master at it.
Yeah. Interesting. What is, you've worked with Cole and you worked with Eli, obviously sales guys, and you've worked with, I'm sure, some great salespeople on those teams. Like,
yeah.
When you hop onto these teams and you're, it's a pretty, I'd imagine Eli's team is pretty competitive, right? I'm not going to say
I was Eli's team. When I got on Eli's team, it was me. I was like setting and closing.
Oh, shit. Well, maybe it's
now he's like kind of built it out a bit.
Yeah. What are some of the things that you like notice from the baller reps, like this girl Jen, that like, what do they do differently to like just be better than everybody else?
Jen would take 15 calls a day. That's one thing. She would fucking work from like sun up to sundown. She was just like a crazy bee. She had crazy energy. She worked for Tony Robbins, so she was just always like crazy amount of energy. She was a total savage on the phones. Crazy work ethic, crazy energy that she brought to every call. Really, really good skills. So it's really the combination of all those things. Yeah. And sometimes she'd be on the phone with people for like 2 hours. Like, you're not getting off the phone. It's like, you're not fucking getting. She was really sweet, but she was the type of person who's like, I'm not letting this motherfucker off the phone without getting his credit card, or I'm good. Like, fly to his house and take his money. Like, she was like a total savage.
Yeah.
Like, killer instinct, like the definition of like killer instinct. And then there's like AIM. She was really good. She was like a door-to-door solar. She was selling door-to-door, and then Brian trained her. And the one thing that, it's really interesting. The people that do the best in sales, they constantly ask for help. They constantly get feedback from their manager, or they're like, oh, this situation came up. Well, like they just pester them. That's that's what AIM did, and she just started crushing it. That's what this girl named Caitlin. She started off as a setter, and she was like that. She just started crushing, breaking industry records.
Yeah.
And then there's on Cole's team, it was interesting. There was a dude named Jacob, I guess. Some people just break all the rules of sales. It's like, oh, like the call flow and stuff. Like on Cole's team, we're really strict about the call flow, but there's a guy like Jacob who's just like shoot the shit with people, and you get like 51 set closes in a month. Like,
Yeah.
how? You listen to his calls, like, how is he doing this? It doesn't make sense. Like, and some people are just really, I don't know. It's not always about the skills, but some people just like pull every lever they can to make sales. So whether it's like hitting people up for referrals or posting organic content, like a lot of people that do really well, they're like just ridiculously hungry, and they're not just like sitting there waiting for, oh, I don't have a call now, so I'm just gonna like go to the gym or something like that. No, they're like, I don't have a call. I'm gonna like dial like 100 people until I talk to somebody, and I'm not just gonna sit here. Like Caitlin was interesting because I was the type of person who would work until like midnight. I had like just stupid like that. I was like workaholic. Caitlin would stop work at 5 p.m. every day. She's like, this is my non-negotiable. I done work at 5. Like, I want a life. Man, I'm like, she's just a girl. But she had the best performance. One day I was like, I wonder, like, why I listened to her calls and I'm like, maybe it's something she's saying. It's just something she's saying. It's got to be. But it's not. It's like, she's like, because I have a strict cutoff time, like, between the hours of 12 and 5, I am working. Like, I'm not getting up. I'm not checking my phone. I'm not eating. I'm not going to the gym. I'm not going to the bathroom. I am sitting here and just dialing people from 12 to 5, like not wasting a single second, like dialing, like that is like super, super effective with their time. I know for myself, my best month, I got like, I don't know, 30 set closes when I would average at like 24. And the best month, it was like January. I had just come off December. December was a really shitty month. It was the first month I missed my projections, and I was pissed. I was pissed because I missed, which is like unacceptable on the team, and I was pissed because I didn't make that much money. So I was like, this month, January, I'm just going to crush it. So I was super committed to hitting 30, which was like, for me, it was just a really big number. Like, not a lot of people hit 30 set closes on that team, except for Jacob, who somehow hit 50. Fucking guy. But anyway, I was like, I'm not going to miss. So I was super committed. And then, like, I used to drink a lot back then because you live in Canada. But every weekend it was a snowstorm, so I didn't go to my friend's house to party and drink. I don't drink. I haven't drank since last November, but I realized like all the time that I it's like when you drink, like, especially for me, like I would go out Friday and like you get drunk, you don't feel normal until like Wednesday. Like your brain starts working again around Wednesday, you know?
Yeah.
And then by Thursday, it's like Fridays, like right there, and it's like, oh, time to do it again, you know. So I was like, oh, this month that I did really good. I thought that it was all my skills. I was like, oh, I hit 30. I was like, oh my god, like I'm the best. It's like finally, I'm like, it's my sales skills. And then the next month, it was like boom, like my performance was like horrible, and I couldn't figure out what was up because I was like focusing on the wrong thing. I was focusing on like what I was saying on the calls too much versus my life outside the calls, because I started partying again. I had all this money. I just went back to my shitty old habits. And that actually, I believe, is like everything you're doing off the call is like more important or as important as your script and what you're saying and what you're selling and all that stuff. Like that's like the basis of my like philosophy in sales now.
Yeah. You said that these people that are like super high level, they are always like looking for feedback. And this is something that I think you would have interesting perspective on, being that you and I both, we help people with sales and getting into it and getting better. But like how often, or like when do you know that you need to like sharpen the blade a little? Like, hey, I should probably go and do a training or, invest in this coaching program.
Yeah. I start feeling like shitty if I'm not, if it's been like a month or two and I haven't been going through some type of training or getting some type of coaching or something like that.
Yeah.
So I tend to like invest a lot. Like when I was on Cole's team, I paid a guy like 12 grand, like to coach me. I was just dropping money on all kinds of stuff like that. Um, Worked with Eli, bought his course before I worked with him. I was in his coaching program. Yeah, so I've always been pretty. That was like outside help, but um, I guess I kind of have a big ego because I don't want to like. I feel like I'm pestering people, or I feel asking dumb questions to like to Brian, for example, who's running the team. Whereas the girls tend to the girls who did really well, they didn't care. Like I want to ask them as much questions as I can to get good. And Brian didn't care either. He's like, this is great. Like, how come everybody else isn't doing this? But I was like, no, I'll figure it out by myself. And that was stupid. But
Yeah. That's something I've dealt with as well. And I think it just truly is a matter of just keeping the blade sharp. And for me, it's like being a sales rep still, because
yeah,
there's a lot of people that get into this sales coaching stuff and they stop
they stopped
selling, but
selling.
things change, like the space is
Yeah.
evolving very quickly. So
Oh, yeah.
staying like it's not even really about the money when it comes to being a sales rep. Like, sure, the money is nice, but like it's the skill and it's, by me being in the trenches, let's call it, I'm able to like help people more effectively because I'm seeing it in
You're
real
still
time,
doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a problem a lot of people get into, Like
Yeah.
Grant Cardone trying to sell Cardone University. Have you ever seen the inside of Cardone University?
No.
Bro, it looks like it's from like the 90s. And I'm like, he's like selling this for like 40 grand to these like car companies and stuff. And I mean, hey, more power to him. Like Grant Cardone's doing like 500K a day or something like that, or more selling
Yeah.
his training. But I'm like, it's kind of the example. It's just the example of what happens when you're like out of the trenches for too long.
Yeah. You really lose touch like bad.
Yeah,
Um,
I guess like I don't sell as much anymore, but I listen to so many sales call recordings that when I do jump on, you know, like I give so much feedback, like just between clients and also our sales team. Like I listen to like a bunch of recordings every single day, so
yeah.
um, that kind of keeps the blade sharp. Like I can still jump on a call, and I'm just maybe like 85% as good as I would be if I was just taking calls all day, or
Right.
maybe 75. It's true though. Like that's why I didn't want to get into sales. I want to do my own coaching, but I don't really want to do sales coaching because one, I got to compete with like Eli and Cole and freaking Jeremy Minor and
Yeah.
God knows who else, And
Yeah.
for two, it's like after you've been in sales for so long, you get in that exact situation. So I was thinking of doing like a non ROI offer of some sort, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah. I was curious though, like you now kind of being in a management slash leadership, like you don't, when it comes to sales, like you're not really having to report to anybody, it seems. And I'm just curious, like going from, a situation where it's like, you got daily meetings perhaps and quotas and managers making sure you're like doing your thing to like now being that guy, like how do you figure out if you're on the right track or the wrong track? Because I know, especially me, I've worked with a lot of smaller agencies and coaches, and it's just like there's no clear path because nobody's laid it out, and like that's just what it is. But I'm curious how you kind of navigate that when you feel like maybe you're not maximizing something here, or like something's broken but you can't figure it out, something like that.
Mm. Yeah, it's tricky when you go from sales to management because it's like a different skill set.
Right.
Like you got to be more organized, and there's certain things that go into it. And it's like you feel like before I had a lot more control over my income, but now I'm depending on other people because if you're most sales management positions, it's like it's either base plus commissions or it's like a flat percentage of revenue. Like
Yeah.
if it's like a big company, maybe it's like 3.5% of revenue, something. So like if you're doing like big money, you can make like really good money per month. Or, it's like a base and then you get a bonus at like 80% of projections and then 90 and then like 100. Or I've seen a few ways that people do the compensation for like the sales managers. But yeah, it's just trying to like try to think of the question again. It just takes like a bit of to get used to. Like I gotta
Yeah.
like train these people, and
Yeah.
it's cool once people start performing good though. It's that's kind of rewarding.
Yeah. Once you get in the flow of things and you get like, you get it done one or two times and then you start building out a team, like it gets easier. But I have found myself in that position where it's like, I think I know it needs to be done, but I'm not entirely sure. And I mean, at that point, you don't
Like,
really
what's the
have an option.
situation where you wouldn't know?
Yeah, it's just like, I mean, just super little things, man. Like there's nothing off the top of my mind right now, but like just working with people when they're building out newer funnels and you're trying to problem solve, and it's really like it's not black and white, right? Um,
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I learned from Cole, like the reason they grew so fast is because they just treat everything down to the numbers. They
yeah,
know their numbers like crazy, and if you have a good understanding of marketing and also the numbers, the different KPIs and stuff in sales, then you kind of like know where to look. Like, this is the problem. Like our show up rate's like 40%. Like, okay, well, like let's figure out why that is. And then
yeah,
it's like, you're looking for like the constraints, like what's going on. Like, the main metrics that we're tracking. It's like how many scheduled calls we have today, how many live calls. So what's the show percentage? How many offers are we making? How many deposits and closes are we getting? So like, what's the revenue collected? What's the cash collected? Like looking at these things every single day kind of gives you like in tracking them, it gives you like a
yeah,
finger on the pulse of your sales.
yeah.
So
That's fair.
I've
What?
always just came back to the math.
Yeah, I mean, and that just comes down to being organized, right? But
Yeah,
I was,
it's simple
was
stuff to
curious.
track.
Yeah. So now you're working with, I mean, a lot of coaches primarily, right?
Yep. Some agency
So
owners here and there still, but mostly coaches now.
yeah. So I mean, dude, you said you review a lot of sales calls. What are some of the biggest things that these coaches are doing uh, wrong before you get in there and correct it?
The biggest things. Fuck, there's a lot. There's a lot, man. Just not following the call flow. Like there's call flow. Like we ask the questions in these order. Here's the stuff we're looking for. And coach, like they'll go off in tangents. The big one is you'll find. It's funny. Like I won't say his name, but like he's really good at what he does. One of our clients, and he. This typically happens when you're around like a year into selling the same offer. You've heard the same problems, the same conversations so many times. It's like I've spoken to this person in like 500
Yeah.
different bodies. So it's like I know this guy's problem. And what happens is like we tend to like assume things. So it's like they say, damn flies. They say like, oh, I have this problem, and you're like, oh, is it like this and this? It's like you start like interjecting your solution, like your solution injecting at the beginning of the call, and they're like, they don't feel understood. You're not following the process. You're not asking them the questions, and they don't buy it. So they're like, I got to think about it. It's because like they don't even think that you understood their problem, or they don't feel like that. It's interesting. You have to kind of go back and like pretend that you've never heard this before in your entire life, and like be
Yeah.
genuinely curious. So that's the thing. Like not following call flow, like not drilling the different objections. There's only so many objections that you can get. Um, like you're still getting the spouse objection. You still don't know how to handle it. Like how many times have you gotten this? Oh, like let's look. Have you tracked? No, I haven't tracked. Oh, you don't track? Okay, well that's a problem.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you did track. You got it 5 times this month. Like how many times are we drilling the spouse objection in the morning? No, we're not. Oh, okay. Well, like, let's do that. Like, do you not know how? Or like, okay, well, like, sometimes it's the simplest things, but people get too much in their own kind of situation. And like, that's why you need a coach to, like, it's this thing right here, like an outside pair of eyes. Cause you get the emotions when it's your business, when like everything's happening to you, it's kind of hard to see. They say like, you can't read the label in the bottle when you're on the inside of it,
Right.
So, yeah, there's usually little things like this is like the death by 1,000 cuts. And a lot of times people like over pitching, or agency guys, they love doing their like slide deck, pitch decks. Like, don't do that. Like, what do we do?
Yeah.
There's just so much.
Yeah. What do you say to some of these coaches?
Oh, the biggest one, by the way, just the biggest one is they get the problem, but they don't get the pain, and they don't understand the difference. And so they don't spend enough time in the discovery and really figure out what the pain. Like, some people are too surface level. They're like, oh, like, I'm a VSL guy, so I just want to talk about the VSL. And like, the calls are way too surface level. They don't get to any real emotion. They don't really get the person to commit to changing at all. And then they just try to pitch them. And sometimes they close them because they're really smart at what they do. Like, they have like a lot of expertise, and the person's just like, okay, I'll do it. But that person was probably going to buy anyway.
Yeah.
And so they probably lose a whole bunch of sales with people that they wouldn't have if they had a really good process of like uncovering the pain. And the difference is there's problems which are logical. I don't have leads is a problem. The pain is like the emotional, how that's impacting you. It's like, oh my God, it's like, what's that causing? It's like, well, I don't know how I'm going to make payroll next month. And my wife is like super pissed because I'm always working late and just super stressed, and it's like killing me. And it's like, where is this impacting you in other areas of life? And it's like, you get to that shit and people are like, yeah, this is something I want to change now. Whereas if you don't, it's like, well, it's just a VSL. Like, I'll figure it out. Or it's just leads, or it's just,
yeah,
it's just losing 10 pounds. But anyway, cut off your question.
Yeah. No, I was just curious because, I mean, I'm in the coaching space as well. And, everybody has different, and looking from a sales perspective, everybody has like a different baseline for like how much they're willing to push for the sale. And maybe not the right word, but like stay persistent in handling objections. Like, when do you decide it's like, all right, dude, this person's giving me so many objections. Like, I'm almost to the point I'd rather not work. Like, I'd rather not force this person into doing this because they're going to come back, charge back, refund, dispute, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it just really depends because, I mean, when it's like not your business, you're like, well, I probably should push. Like, if I wanted to work with this person and they were giving me that many objections, I'd be like, all right, get lost. Like, I don't want to work with you. Like, it doesn't take me very long to get there. But, like, I remember working on Eli's team, and he had this one guy who, like, so he had a different offer, like elite sales something, like 2 years, like a year before I worked with him. He had a team before that, which he got rid of them, and then he started growing it again. But anyway, I listened to one of his closers calls. This guy was like a complete savage. Like, the guy's like, I don't have money. I just bought this course. And the guy was on with this dude for like 2 hours. And I was just watching this call, and he kept looping over and over and over. And it was one of those calls like, like, sometimes it's just kind of cringy. Like, oh my God, like, he's still going.
Yeah.
He's still going. Like, and finally the guy just like, all right, fuck, here's my credit card at the end. I don't know if that guy, I'm not sure if he refunded or what, but it's like, I don't like that style, but then again, like, maybe like the guys who make like a shit ton of money, like, that's what they do. Like,
yeah, dude, it depends.
It's more of like the Jeremy Minor style, I think. Like I feel like that's kind of like, although I never gone through his training, but I feel like, because that's where the guy came from. He came from Jeremy Miner's team, I think.
Right. Yeah, dude. I am just. It's not even the act of pushing them. It's just like the repercussions of doing that, especially when it's your own business, right? It's like, dude, I don't want to deal with that. Like, I'm cool with, I'll push once, twice, 3 times, whatever it is. But it's like, man, I have to work with this person for X amount of time. And it's like, this is going to be a super forced relationship if I keep pushing here.
Yeah, for like coaching, the way I think about it, And I was just talking to. It's funny. This is on top of my mind. I would like people are trying to like sell coaching. Like I don't want to sell people into my coaching program because I'll give you a quick story. When I was in Colombia, I was there with Johan. He's a closer on JK's team, and we were in the little club area, like a little block, all clubs, and it was like a weekend, and we were getting hit up nonstop from the club promoters, like, "Oh, come in here, like free drinks, hot girls." Like the first time, you're like, "Ah, okay, maybe," and then when it happens like 20, 80, 50 more times, or like, I don't want to go in any of these clubs. If one more person talks to me, I'm going to kill them. And I feel like most people are selling their coaching program, like they're selling it, like they're pushing people into it. Like I don't want to push people into my coach program. I would way rather be the club where it's like, oh, it's a full line of people, and it's like, oh, what's in here? Like that place looks sick, but they're not pushing you. In fact, they're trying to push you away. Like, nah, I don't think this is right for you. You know, and it's like, I would way rather the appointment setter be like the bouncer on the outside of the club, and then like, okay, well, you can come into to this part of the club, and there's like, oh, there's a VIP in here. It's like very exclusive, but it's really cool. They're having a lot of fun in there. There's like really hot chicks in there, and they're like, I want to go in the VIP rooms. And then the closer's like the guy like in front of the VIP room. It's like, no, you can't come in here. Like, no, you have to pass through me. Like, I'm not a closer. I'm not here to close you. I'm here to like keep you out. We would way rather have quality people in here who are not going to bring the room down, right? You have to prove to me that you're worth it. So you like, why should I let you in here? Why should we even work with you? And you can't just get there necessarily like overnight. But once you have, I think, the track record and case studies and marketing and the brand, there's no reason why you couldn't do it like that.
Right. Especially once you're pushing like colder and colder traffic through paid ads. Like it's hard to create that atmosphere.
Like
but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I work with I don't work with him. Like I paid this guy for coaching back in January. This dude named Wes Watson. Do you know who that is?
No, I don't.
He's on Instagram. He has a coaching program. He's like jacked, full of tats. He's doing I think he's doing $3 million a month right now. But it's just him. He doesn't have a sales team. It's literally just him, and he just closes people all day like through text. Right? I was like, he's doing something right. So let me like work with this guy and figure out what he's doing.
Yeah, $3 million a month.
And yeah, he's like selling like 20K programs like over text. And his whole thing, it's like he has so many leads because he has such a big personal brand now. Like he might get like 400 leads a day, and it's just like might close 7 of them, or 10 or whatever. He's like, that's not a very good conversion rate, but he's making like somewhere between 50 to 100K per day, if not more. And it's like, hey, like, what's up? What's your goals? I remember when I was like, hey, here's my goals. I want to do this and this. He's like, oh, that's easy. You want the details of the program? Because I already knew, because he shares his price in his content. And his content is just, I think of it like front loading value. So it's like, and sharing proof, like all these testimonials and shit. And I was like, yeah, I want that. I want to work with this fucking guy. And I was like, I already knew, and I had the money ready. I was like, all right, I'm ready to go. And he's like, all right, what's your goal? Easy. Do you want the details of the program? I go, yeah. And he sends them to me. I'm like, all right. Like he's like, there's like a month option, a 3-month, a 6-month, and like 12-month. He's like, which one do you want to do? I was like, I'll just do this one. He's like, all right, here's the link. I was like, I went from like opting into his funnel, which was like name, email, phone number, to getting a text, to paying, to getting onboarded within like 10 minutes. I was like, this motherfucker, he's onto something. Like speed to lead is like, insane. And it's like, this whole thing is he won't work with people who, if like, they're like giving him objections and stuff, he like, he's a crazy person. He's interesting. People are like, is this really you? Is this a robot? He'll like call him up. He's like, you got Wes motherfucker Watson on the phone, motherfucker. Just like scream at them, and he was just like hang up, because he's just like an intense dude who's in prison for 10 years. But like this guy is like an interesting business model.
Yeah,
like 90% profits, doing like $3 million a month. Just him.
I'm looking
like
at
a small
him.
Team. Like,
yeah, I'm seeing him right now on Google. But I recently bought into something just like that, man. I paid $8K, paid in full through the DMs. Like I didn't even get on a sales call with the guy, because he like shows just like undeniable social proof every single day, and then he like out in the open has his like the price of his service out there. It's like, and he closes at like 70% when he does get on
Yeah.
calls. So like, it
Yeah.
might just be the
I
way to
mean,
do it, man.
I would way rather get on a call with somebody who knew my price and who already liked me and trusted me, which is why I'm such a big believer in personal brand. Because you just front load so much value that basically you create like a Netflix. Ideally, you have like a Netflix effect where people. I know when I buy from people, it's like, oh, I heard him on a podcast, and then I start following him on social media. And I like watch his stuff and I consume it. I'm like, oh, I like this. And then he has longer form stuff, like he has his own podcast or a YouTube channel. So watching this, getting a lot of value. Oh, and there's like a book. Oh, I'll read the book. It's like $10, whatever. And then there's like posting social proof every day, and my brain's like, like it's either like more and more that I want to work with this person. It's like, here's the prices, and it's like da da da, and it's like very obvious what he does, and very obvious how much he charges, and like the value of it, because it's like crazy social proof. And I'm like, fuck it, like I'm ready to go. And as soon as I had the money, like as soon as I get paid, I'm gonna work with this fucking guy, and that's what I did. I was just like, hey man, like it's the perfect selling system in a way.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've like with my coaching stuff. I've tried to recreate that. I mean, I run a much different model. Like I'm not making 3 million a month by any means, but like the social proof, man, it sells better than any sales rep can, And so if you have it and you can just get it in front of people over and over and over to the point where it's like more unreasonable to believe that this doesn't get you the result.
It's like a Hormozy thing.
Yeah, exactly.
At what point would it be unreasonable for you to not believe that you're going to get the result?
Exactly.
This whole wall of testimonials is like, okay, you're right. It's like, do you believe it'll work for you? Yes. Do you see it works for other people? Yes. Do you have the money to do it, or access to it, or know someone who does? Yes. Okay, well, let's do it. Okay.
Yeah.
Good old Hormozy.
Honestly, dude, it's like, you can study all the perfect talk tracks and objection handles and all that, but it's like, as a sales rep, why not make it as easy as possible for me?
Easy. Yeah. Like if I were to go and launch my own sales team, like I would want it to be fucking easy. Like I would want it to be as easy as possible for the closers, because like they're going to be making a lot of money. They're going to be happy. It's like, it's a grind when it's fucking hard. And like you're like cold DMing people or cold emailing them and getting them on calls, and they don't know what you do. And that's hell. You're like cold calling people or knocking on doors and shit. Fuck. Yeah. That's pain. Like the whole thing with social proof and putting a brand out there and VSLs and all this stuff. If you narrow it down, like what are we actually trying to accomplish? It's like we're trying to build trust in a time when there's like trust is at an all-time low. The post-trust era, as Jeremy Miner always calls it. And that's all it is. Like the whole game is building trust, building trust, building trust.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, as this space gets more and more sophisticated, like I think it's mandatory. Absolutely. I was going to say, I have a call that I got to jump into in a few minutes, typical sales guy fashion, but
no worries, dude.
No, dude, it's been good, like diving into your background and getting your insights. Cause I've, for the listeners, this is the first time we've met. So I've seen you around a lot, and it's cool to meet. So for the people that want to find you, man, where can they find you?
X and Instagram. I have the same handle on both. God, I hate calling it X. It's Twitter. It's Ben W. Byrne, Byrne. Good old Irish name for you. I'm easy to find. It's a cheap cash collector. If you're wondering, there is a story behind that, but I'm not sure if we have time to go into that. But that's me. It's like a
cool
guy
awesome,
with
man. I'll link
beard guy.
The beard guy, yeah. I'll link it below for any of the listeners who want to check you out on Instagram or Twitter. And dude, I appreciate you coming on. This has been a good episode, and I think a lot of good nuggets for the sales reps and everyone who listens. Yeah. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Hit me up on Instagram. I'm super active on there. Happy to help if anyone has any questions, or if you want coaching or whatever, just hit me up.
Cool. All right, man. Well, appreciate your time. We'll stay in touch.
Hell yeah. I'll see you in Austin.
Awesome. We'll see you then.
See you, bro.